Tokyo 2027. A year after the haunt virus infected everyone on Earth, a colossal dungeon suddenly manifests right in the heart of the city. Within its depths lies a vast, sprawling labyrinth, home to grotesque monsters. It also holds riches and resources that don't exist anywhere else on Earth. Driven by dreams of striking it rich, humanity dared to challenge the dungeon. But the deeper you venture, the more lethal the threats become. Delving in means walking hand in hand with death, and many never return to the surface. Inside the labyrinth of illusions, two delvers are cornered by the great horn of Tonitrus. Just as hope fades, a massive beam of energy rains down from above. The delivers look up in total shock, wondering where the hell that came from. It's Soma Salto descending from the ceiling with a massive cannon he just finished crafting. The lightning culver packs enough heat to vaporize the boss in a single blast. S lands as the delvers celebrate, thinking they've just been saved by a hero. He doesn't share their enthusiasm, giving them a flat, no thanks. He only came for boss materials and has zero interest in a fight that doesn't pay a single gold. More monsters start appearing on the cliffs behind the exhausted delvers. They beg him for help, but S just keeps walking, stepping right over the dead beast. He starts gathering his materials, his hands glowing with crafting energy. He tells them that if they want to talk business, he's all ears. Otherwise, he's busy. In his element, S looks like a completely different person standing over the ruins of a monster. Go back a few months, and he was just a guy obsessed with his craft in a quiet workshop. The labyrinth in Tokyo perfectly mirrored the world of a popular game called Fantasia Online. Because of that, players were able to use their in-game character abilities in the real world. Since modern weapons didn't work inside, having these skills gave them an overwhelming advantage. Countless people became delvers, obsessed with hunting monsters and finding treasure. While everyone was fighting, Soma was focused on a completely different path. He chose the crafter class, the only one in the game dedicated solely to production. He ignored the exploration craze, spending all his time mastering the art of crafting. But the community didn't respect it, calling it the king of trash jobs on social media. To most people, it was a jack of all trades, master of none that was barely worth playing. S didn't care about the reputation. He lived to perfect his craft and master the game his way. While he's admiring a newly finished blade, he gets an incoming call from his sister, Shika. She sounds completely relieved that he picked up. Thanking goodness he's there. S's face turns serious. Shika was always the dependable one, never asking for help like this. She was a much more proper delver than him, but she sounded absolutely terrified. He rushes into the dungeon, panicking over what could have happened to her. He follows the signal to her floor, shouting her name into the darkness. He finds her, but she's been transformed into a tiny creature with butterfly wings. S stands there in total shock, his mind going completely blank. He lets out a scream that echoes through the halls, spooking every other delver nearby. Shika explains that she blacked out and woke up like this. And now everyone treats her like a monster. S can't wrap his head around it. There was never a mechanic like this in the original game. He reaches out his hand and activates Analyze to figure out what's actually going on. S explains how his Analyze skill works. It's usually for identifying crafting recipes or finding cures for status ailments. He turns the skill on his sister, hoping it can tell him how to turn her back to normal. But the screen is a mess of glitchy noise. For a second, he wonders if it's truly impossible to fix her. Then, a single line of text flickers through the distortion, giving him a glimmer of hope. It identifies her condition as an unknown monsterization curse, and the only cure is the legendary Philosopher's Stone. Shikika's eyes light up. She knows that stone is the holy grail of items. It can do anything, including breaking level caps. S keeps a level head. The problem is that no one has ever found one in this dungeon before. To craft it, he needs a list of materials that sound like a death sentence to gather, like Hellfire Dragon's blood. Since they can't hunt for these themselves yet, they'll have to buy them from a high-end material shop. The price tag is enough to make anyone's head spin. 100 million gold. Slumps against a pillar, feeling pathetic. Having the recipe means nothing if he can't get the parts. Shikika won't let him stay down. She reminds him that without his trash job, they wouldn't even have a clue where to start. He gives her a small smile, realizing she's right about him being their only hope. He stands up, his mind made up. He's going to sink every resource he has into getting those materials. He reaches a hand out to her. He's going to need her help to pull this off. Shikika is on board, though she's still sweating over how they're going to come up with that much cash. S just grins. He tells her they're going to make a killing in the labyrinth. They head down to the first floor's mining area to start their grind for starting capital. The place is crawling with rookies who only joined up because of the gaming hype. Shikika watches as S brings up his crafting cube, asking what he's building. He manifests a small-scale mining bomb, planning to clear out some or to sell, but their work is interrupted by some elitist delvers mocking S for picking such a loser job. The leader is a wizard named Ignis, and he looks down on everyone from behind his classes. His party starts laughing, surprised to even see a crafter in person since they're supposed to be extinct. S tries to ignore them, telling Shikika they should just grab what they need and leave, but Shika's not having it. She points a finger at them and tells them they've talked enough. The bullies just think she's a pet monster and start wondering if she's actually worth something. Ignis gets fed up with the annoying little creature and draws his staff to swat her. He swings it down with everything he's got, aiming to crush her. S catches the staff with one hand, stopping it dead. Ignis is stunned by the raw physical strength coming from a crafter. S's gaze turns cold. He tells Ignis that if he tries to hurt her again, things are going to change. He shoves the staff back and tells the group to get lost. Ignis is shaking with rage, unable to handle being disrespected by someone he considers trash. He points the staff, screaming for an apology as magic starts to swirl. He lets loose a massive explosion spell right in S's face. He cackles, convinced that both the garbage crafter and the weakling monster have been vaporized. But when the smoke clears, the fire is gone, and S is standing there holding a glowing blue orb. Ignis can't believe his eyes. His flames just vanish into thin air. S explains that he used a mining bomb and a bottle of water he had on hand. He combined them instantly to craft a water bomb specifically designed to counter fire magic. He looks back at Chica, who's safely tucked into a scarf, looking pretty proud of his quick thinking. Ignis is having a total meltdown. He refuses to believe a low-tier item could possibly block his high-tier magic. Ignis, sweat dripping down his face in frustration, activates his own analyze skill to see through whatever trick Soma just pulled. But as the data processes, his arrogant facade completely shatters, replaced by a look of sheer horror. The status screen displays a level that defies all logic. Level 999. Ignis can only stammer in disbelief, wondering who this crafter really is. So much as smiles, his crimson eyes gleaming as he repeats that he's nothing more than an average crafter. Ignis stares at the status window in total disbelief, screaming at the top of his lungs when he sees that impossible level 999. Someone just holds up his water bomb, reminding the guy that he's already had a taste of what a Maxwell crafter's items can do. It turns out that crafted items scale directly with the player's level, making even a basic bomb a weapon of mass destruction in S's hands. The rest of the party starts to realize they're in way over their heads, wondering if they're actually about to lose to a lowly crafter. Ignis snaps, refusing to accept defeat as he stands at the center of a massive, glowing magic circle. He throws his hands up and roars for the ground to shatter, unleashing his most powerful Earthbreak spell. The entire area erupts in a violent explosion of stone and light, sending massive boulders flying into the air. S.A. stays light on his feet, dodging the falling debris as the dust begins to settle around him. Ignis starts cackling like a maniac, bragging about how he's mastered advanced magic in all 4 elements. He tells S to get on his knees and beg for mercy, completely unaware of the glowing yellow eyes watching from the dark hole he just blasted. A massive dark silhouette towers over the unsuspecting mage, its presence filling the entire cavern. S realizes the idiot actually managed to blow a hole straight through the floor, waking up something much worse. A gargantuan red dragon climbs out of the pit, and Sai, knowing things got a whole lot more complicated. The beast opens its maw, a sphere of intense flames swirling between its teeth as it prepares to incinerate everything. It lets loose a devastating blast of fire that washes over the ground, forcing everyone to scramble for cover. Ignis is frozen in pure terror, his glasses reflecting the wall of flames closing in on him. S steps in and counters the heat with a massive burst of water, neutralizing the dragon's breath in an instant. Shikika is shaking with fear and asking what the plan is, while S just complains about what a terrible start to the day this turned out to be. S pulls out a crafting cube and asks Shikika if she can use her scouting skills to find a way out of this mess. Shikika admits she can't fight a monster that big, but she's ready to provide all the support he needs. The dragon fires another beam, but Shikika dives in to intercept it with her own magic. She activates her detect weakness skill, scanning the dragon's massive body for any opening they can exploit. A blue crosshair finally locks onto a specific spot right at the base of the dragon's thick tail. The dragon slams its tail into the ground with enough force to shatter the stone, narrowly missing S as he maneuvers around it. The other delvers watch from the sidelines, convinced that the monster is absolutely invincible since it hasn't taken a scratch yet. S tells them they're wrong as he slides across the floor, revealing that his real goal was just to trigger a specific rare item drop. He quickly lists off his materials, a pickaxe, some iron, ore, and his mining bombs all ready to be combined. He activates Triple Craft, merging the materials with a rare dragon scale to create something much more destructive. In a flash of light, he's suddenly holding a massive, steaming Draconic pile bunker. He drives the heavy weapon straight into the monster's weak point with a massive mechanical thud. S gives the beast a cold smile and tells it that the fight is over. The pile bunker fires, tearing a massive hole through the dragon's spine and ending the battle in one shot. S stands victorious over the fallen beast, his newly crafted weapon still sizzling from the impact. Everyone watching is left speechless, unable to process how Crafter just soloed a dungeon boss. Shikika flies around him in circles, cheering and praising him for his amazing work. A weak voice calls out from the deep crack in the floor where the dragon emerged. It's Ignis trapped at the bottom of the pit and desperately begging S to save him. S asks why he doesn't just use his advanced magic to get out, and the mage admits he's completely out of mana. S starts crafting a rope ladder, but he makes it very clear that his rescue services aren't going to be free. Ignis immediately flips his attitude, screaming out a desperate apology for being so rude and ignorant earlier. S looks down at him and mentions that letting him die wouldn't actually earn him any gold, which would be a waste of time. He flashes a devious grin and tells the mage that the price of his life is every single coin he has on him. Soma walks off with a devious grin, leaving the terrified mage to run for his life. He suddenly slumps against the cave wall, his energy finally hitting zero after such a high-intensity battle. S admits he's hit his limit, realizing that being a combat-focused crafter is way more exhausting than it looks. The other delvers approach him, admitting they were watching the whole fight and are completely blown away. One of them points to the massive pile bunker and asks if S would actually be willing to sell it to them. The offer jumps from 200,000 to 300,000 gold in an instant, making Sheikah's eyes practically turn into money signs. S is surprised that they'd pay that much for an item that will eventually drop if they just keep grinding. The delvers shake their heads, explaining that a regular drop could never match the insane enhancement stats S built into this thing. They remind him that this isn't just a game. People are actually dying in here, so having a god-tier weapon is worth every cent. S starts to realize that normal people don't have the luxury of farming for years when their lives are on the line every day. He figures that if people are willing to throw money at their problems to survive, he might as well be the one to provide the solution. He agrees to the deal with a sharp grin, handing over the weapon for a massive pile of gold. Between the rescue reward and the sale of the pile bunker, Soma walks away with nearly 500,000 gold in a single day. Even with that huge payday, he still has over 99 million gold left to go to reach his ultimate target. Back in town, the duo enjoys the feeling of two massive back-to-back paydays after all their hard work. Shikika asks what he's thinking, and S tells her he just came up with a brilliant new plan to speed things up. Suggests giving up on honest exploration entirely, which sends Shika into a total state of panic. He explains that if they struggled that much against a single dragon, trying to clear the lower floors with just the two of them is suicide. He looks at his crafting materials, realizing he has a much more efficient way to get what he needs. S holds up a glowing sword, confident that his crafting skill is the real key to conquering this world. He points out that unlike in a video game, there's a massive real-world demand for high-quality gear right here in the city. They stop in front of a massive ornate building that towers over everything else in the district. Shika is skeptical that they'll find the perfect item to sell so easily, but S is absolutely certain they will. He stares up at the symbol above the doors, revealing that they've arrived at the heart of the city's economy. Shreds his arms wide, calling it the one place in the entire labyrinth where the most gold changes hands. They step inside the legendary auction where the richest and most powerful delvers go to bid on the world's rarest treasures. Bidding for a rare gem starts climbing, already hitting 50,000 gold. S and Chico watch from the balcony as the numbers fly past 90,000. The auctioneer slams his gavel down. Sold for 90,000 gold. S just grins, telling Shikika that this is where the real fun starts. Next up is the Dark Ages, a jet black shield with a starting bid of a H100,000. The price triples almost instantly as the crowd goes into a frenzy. A woman in the front row drops over 500,000 like it's nothing. Sold for 550,000 gold. Someone decides that shield is going to be their next crafting target. He saw the demand. There are plenty of people willing to pay top dollar for it. His plan is to mass-produce the shield and sell it to everyone who lost a bid today. He's already imagining the mountain of gold they're about to make. But crafting the Dark Aegis requires two incredibly rare materials. He He needs war, tinged adamantite, and fire dragon blood to get the job done. They already grabbed the blood from a fire dragon hunt, so that's one down. For the adamantite, they head straight for the second floor of the labyrinth. While they're there, S starts trying to hawk his homemade mana potions. 1,000 gold for one bottle has the other explorer fuming about being ripped off. S doesn't care. He's just out here making some easy pocket change. He ends up selling all kinds of gear to people caught in the dungeon's traps. Another explorer complains about the price, but S isn't budging. He insists it's a fair price for something that bypasses annoying traps. Things get heated as the guy tries to negotiate the price down, but the argument is cut short when Shikika notices something coming. A pack of flaming wolves is sprinting straight for them. S and the explorer both start screaming as they turn to run. S realizes he got way too distracted trying to squeeze out a little extra gold. There are too many of them to fight in the open without putting Sheik at risk. They sprint down a corridor only to realize they've hit a dead end. Soma just laughs it off and pulls out a glowing blue cube. He summons a massive blast hammer and readies himself for a swing. In a tight space like this, he can wipe the whole pack out at once. He brings the hammer down, unleashing a massive blue energy blast. After the explosion, he checks to make sure Shikika is doing okay. He's ready to move on, but then he hears the ground start to groan. His own attack shattered the floor, sending him tumbling into a pit. He lands hard, cursing himself for messing up so badly. He can't believe he repeated the same stupid mistake he's seen others make. Shikika dives down after him, screaming his name in a panic. S is barely alive, but he's just glad the hit point system kept him in one piece. It's pitch black down there, so he pulls out another cube to get some light. He lights up a lantern, ready to see what's waiting for them in the dark. S.A. finds himself in a room filled with glowing blue capsules. He notes that the area has the distinct vibe of an ancient civilization's ruins. Shikika points out something massive looming in the darkness nearby. It's a grand Gignal series, a legendary boss known from high-level raid events. S is shocked that the labyrinth managed to recreate a monster of this scale. He identifies it as the Grand Gignal Eve, one of the toughest models in its series. Shika is worried about what they should do next, but S is already deep in thought. He tells her to stay back while he moves in to check the machine out. He's already thinking about the incredible rare materials a boss like this might drop. Shikika warns him that it's way too dangerous, but he's already climbing on top of it. He assumes the machine is completely shut down and poses no threat to them. Suddenly, a loud metallic clang echoes through the room as the robot starts to vibrate. S yells for Shikika to get away as the core begins to glow with an intense light. Thick jets of steam hiss out of the machine as its systems roar back to life. A blinding green light fills the chamber and a mysterious silhouette appears within. Emerging from a core is a mechanical girl with wings. The boss has been activated. It's a bright morning in Spire Town with a central tower looming over the timber-framed houses. Inside, the high-spec Automa Eve is already hard at work. She swapped her combat gear for a maid outfit and is busy cleaning the workshop, wondering if S ever picks up after himself. She gives him a judgmental look, sighing about how much of a handful her new master is. S just scratches his head while she sweeps around him. Despite the complaints, she admits that serving him is actually turning out to be pretty rewarding. A quick look back shows just how different things used to be. They were just fighting her while she was in her raid boss form. The Grand Jin series is a massive mechanical beast, but its real power comes from the human-sized doll acting as its core. That core was Eve, though back then, she was a lot more focused on killing him than cleaning his floors. Even for a level 999 crafter like S, taking down a boss of that scale was a serious gamble. But after the fight, something unexpected happened. Once he registered as her new master, she completely lost all her memories of being an enemy. Now she's stuck in maid mode, and S is still trying to wrap his head around the fact that his former nemesis is now his live-in housekeeper. She's relentless, too. She's currently scrubbing the walls with so much energy that even Shikika is getting dizzy just watching. Nothing escapes her rag. She's determined to turn this messy room into something respectable. The two of them actually start bonding over how much of Slob Soma is, leaving him to just stand there in shock. She officially introduces herself as Eve, insisting he use the name. S is still clearly baffled by the whole situation. He decides it's time to get back to the grind and tells Eve to stay behind and handle the housework while he hits the labyrinth. She accepts the orders with a bow, praying for his success in the upcoming battles. S and Shika head deep into the spire, trekking down a seemingly endless spiral staircase. Shikika wonders if Eve's new personality is some kind of hidden lore that finally surfaced after her boss memories were wiped. A mural on the wall confirms the theory, showing that Eve was originally a maid who served a princess in an ancient civilization. That would explain the obsession with cleaning. S decides to just roll with it for now and stay focused on the mission. His main goal is gathering rare materials so he can upgrade the Dark EG shield. While they're searching, they run into a party of delvers led by a paladin named Oliver. Oliver recognizes him immediately. It's not every day you see a crafter wandering around this deep in the labyrinth. One of his buddies isn't exactly a fan, calling Soma a weirdo for wasting his time mastering a trash job class. S is annoyed they'd call his work pointless, though he doesn't really have a comeback for the weirdo comment. Oliver tells his team to knock it off and warns them not to pick a fight with the guy. He knows that at S's level, those high stats could easily turn the tables on them if things got ugly. A little mage girl in the group pipes up, curious if the two of them are actually friends. They both deny it at the exact same time, claiming they're just acquaintances despite being perfectly in sync. Oliver changes the subject and asks about S's sister, since she's usually the one diving with him. S takes a moment to explain what happened to her. The whole group is stunned. They can't believe a player could actually be turned into a monster like Sheikah. Oliver finds the story a bit too wild, suggesting it's more likely S just got a pet monster that looks like his sister. S is definitely not amused. Either way, Oliver is too busy training his own team to help out with any sisters turn monsters right now. He still respects the hustle, though. Earning 100 million gold just to turn her back is a massive undertaking. He remembers S mentioning they aren't even blood-related, which makes his devotion that much more impressive. Smiles and admits he's completely devoted to her. He calls her his pride and joy while the little mage girl squeezes the life out of the poor butterfly girl. A flashback shows a young S standing in front of a grave as the rain pours down. After his parents died in an accident, he was left completely alone in the world. He was just a lost kid with no one to turn to. But then a couple reached out to him. The South were the ones who gave him a real home. The South didn't just take him in out of pity. They were close friends with his parents and wanted to give him a real home. That's how he met their only daughter, Sheikah. She was a pretty quiet and withdrawn kid at first, but it didn't take long for her to warm up to him. She eventually accepted him as a real brother, and he became just as devoted to her. Back in the crystalline depths of the labyrinth, S is lost in thought. He's made a vow to himself that he'll turn her back to normal no matter what. His internal monologue is cut short by a shout. He looks up to see Sheikah hovering nearby. She's hit the jackpot, a massive piece of dark adamantite. She's absolutely thrilled with the find. S gives her a proud smile, telling her she's exactly the kind of scout he needs. He looks at the crystal, his face hardening. He's going to fix her whatever the cost. They've gathered quite a bit, but S is already thinking ahead. He wants double this amount if they're going to mass-produce the items he has in mind. His planning is interrupted by a desperate plea for help echoing through the cavern. He rushes toward the voice and is stunned to find one of Oliver's companions in serious trouble. The delver is collapsed on the floor, clearly suffering from a nasty status ailment. S and Sheikah move in to see what they can do. S immediately drops to one knee and activates his analyze skill. He knows he can find a recipe for a cure, and by working backward, he can figure out exactly what kind of monster they're dealing with. But as the data scrolls across his vision, his eyes widen in disbelief. It's a Venom Drake variant. It's a high-tier monster that shouldn't even be appearing on this floor of the dungeon. Meanwhile, a quiet breeze blows through the workshop back in town. Eve is gone from the house. She's currently standing on the very top of a high tower overlooking the city. She stands perfectly still against the sky, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Her robotic resolve is as strong as ever. She has a duty to fulfill, and she's determined to see it through. S notes that Venom Drakes aren't exactly top tier when it comes to dragon-type monsters, but the variant versions are in a completely different league, and hunting one solo would be nearly impossible even for a Heil fighter like Oliver. Sheikah asks if they're really that strong since she's never seen one before. S confirms they're bad news. The real problem is their poison. Standard magic and antidotes won't even touch a variant's toxic mix. Sheikah points to a poison scout, asking if there's anything they can do. S tells her they can't craft a serum without the right materials. He adds that if the guy dies, they won't be able to find out what happened to the rest of the group. S decides they have no choice but to head down further into the dungeon. They reach a massive hole with several ladders leading down into the dark. Sheikah volunteers to fly ahead and scout the area for a bit. She's determined to make herself useful as a specialist scout. At the bottom, she finds the area choked with poisonous purple miasma and hears the sounds of struggle. She reports back to S, who figures whoever is down there is probably handling it with paladin skills. But he knows that trying to fight a variant in the middle of all that miasma is basically suicide. Sheikah suggests they just give up and find another spot to mine. But S isn't having it. He explains that other gathering areas are even more difficult. It's safer to just stick to the plan and avoid the Drake's notice here. When she worries about the miasma again, S tells her he's already got a plan ready to go. He reaches out and swipes something from the air around her. It's some of her fairy powder, which is the gold standard for countering status ailments. Shikika is completely flustered. S pulls out his crafting cube, which begins to glow with a bright blue light. In an instant, he crafts a warding scarf to protect himself. He wraps it around his face, explaining that it should be enough to keep the poisonous mist at bay. They step into the thick of the purple haze where the air is heavy and toxic. S asks Shika to handle the navigation while he focuses on the path ahead. A sudden shock wave ripples through the mist, sending debris flying. Oliver is thrown back by the impact, barely managing to keep his shield steady. The massive Venom Drake variant looms over him, its eyes glowing with malice as it prepares to strike. Oliver is clearly at his limit, struggling to hold the monster back with everything he's got. S calls out his name. Oliver is horrified to be caught in such a pathetic state. Swallowing his pride, Oliver begs S for a hand in the fight. He knows that they can use the monster's own glands to make a serum for the rest of his team. S isn't moved, asking why his party's own Magicastaster isn't handling it. Oliver points to his fallen comrades, explaining that he can't save them on his own. He tells S he'll pay him whatever he wants if he just steps in to help. S's expression immediately shifts once money is mentioned. He agrees to lend a hand. Oliver is beyond relieved, shouting his thanks as he gets back into a fighting stance. The knight rallies, his armor and shield glowing with divine energy as he faces the monster again. The Drake lunges, but Oliver stands his ground against the assault. The beast retaliates by firing a concentrated beam of poison right at him. Oliver invokes his gigantic shield skill. A massive energy barrier forms, completely blocking the Drake's toxic breath. With the monster distracted, Oliver vaults over his shield and jumps into the air. He comes down hard with his hammer, delivering a crushing blow to the dragon's head. Oliver tosses a flashbang into the air, signaling for S to activate it. S triggers the device, filling the cave with a blinding light. He tells Oliver to go all out while the monster is stunned. The knight lunges forward, delivering a brutal strike to the blinded Drake. S breaks away to find the materials for the serum, promising Oliver he'll be back with the cure. But the dragon recovers faster than anticipated, pinning its gaze on the knight. Oliver is caught off guard and slammed into the ground by the beast's overwhelming strength. The monster lets out a roar of triumph, looming over S. As he tries to complete his task, S realizes the flashbang drew all the monster's aggro. He desperately attempts a binding craft to hold it back. The beast attacks with a burst of dark energy, throwing Soma into a defensive struggle. He fights to keep his focus, but the monster's power starts to take a physical toll. A sudden explosion of light signals that his crafting process has been interrupted. A powerful strike hits the Drake right in the face, stopping its advance in an instant. A glowing silhouette stands between them and the beast. S breathes a sigh of relief as he calls out to Eve. S and Shika are completely blindsided. Eve just appeared out of thin air right in the middle of a dungeon. She looks like she's on a mission, her eyes glowing with that eerie green light. Before they can even react, she's already moving, becoming a total blur. She's incredibly fast, closing the distance in a heartbeat. She stops right in front of them to hand S, something he apparently forgot at home. S is just standing there confused, but to her, it's just a maid's duty. He starts cracking up. She really ran all the way down here just for that. Eve doesn't get what's so funny. She's just being professional. She tells her high-maintenance master to keep relying on her from now on. But the comedy hour is over as a massive poison dragon looms over them. S pulls out his crafting cube while Eve steps forward to take the lead. She says taking out anything that dares to threaten her master is also part of her job description. The dragon snaps at her, but she blocks the hit with a massive shockwave. Purple energy flares everywhere as the monster tries to overpower her. Shikika starts panicking about the toxic fumes, but someone tells her not to worry. Poison doesn't do anything to a robot, and Eve is literally holding the dragon's mouth shut. She creates some distance before launching herself back into the attack. She lands a heavy blow right on its snout, sending a spray of sparks into the air. Oliver jumps in, yelling that he won't let the beast have its way. He catches a massive slam with his shield, struggling under the monster's raw strength. Shikika scans the dragon, looking for a way to end this quickly. She finds it. The back of the neck is its only real weak spot. The problem is their current damage output is way too low to finish it off. Even Eve's physical strength isn't enough to secure a kill on its own. Soma looks over at Oliver's injured teammates. Healing them wouldn't be enough to change the tide. He realizes there's only one way to win. He calls out to Oliver with a plan. He tells him to hand over every single item they have on them right now. He's going to craft a weapon that can actually put this thing down. Oliver tosses his gear over. Oliver asks if they really have a chance. S just smiles. He's got the best mate on his team. He goes to work using his crafting skill to fuse the items into something new. "Catch Eve," he shouts, throwing the glowing finished product her way. She snatches it out of the air while mid-jump. The energy surges through her, concentrating in her legs. The dragon senses the power and lets out a final desperate roar. Gear unlocked. Lightning-heavy greaves. She delivers a devastating kick straight to the dragon's neck, releasing a massive wave of electricity. A beam of pure energy tears through the beast, lighting up the entire cavern. Eve lands perfectly as the massive dragon finally goes down for good. The dust settles, revealing the giant crater left behind. Mission complete. She holds up the prize, a poison dragon's jewel. Oliver can't believe they actually took down a boss-level monster. S just give him a confident look. He told them they'd win, didn't he? S passes over a serum, apologizing for the wait and telling them to get it to the scout upstairs. Eve bows her head, genuinely touched that he'd trust a total stranger with a role this important. He tries to act cool, saying the new gear was just a logical choice to deal the most damage. But Sheikah knows better, teasing him for being so bad at showing his true feelings. Blushing with embarrassment, S points a finger and shouts that they're all going to earn 100 million gold together. He tells Eve that if she wants to stay, she's got to pull her weight as part of the fighting force. She just gives him a small smile and tells him to leave everything to her. Between the items they sold and the massive reward from Oliver's party, they've made a serious killing. On top of the gold, they scored some top-tier loot like dark adamantite and a poison dragon's jewel. And with that, the automa made Eve has officially joined the party. But elsewhere, a mysterious man reports to his mistress that S is already gathering materials for a powerful shield. Ishvari decides that even though the crafter has talent, she's going to have to teach him his place. A few days after the dust settled from the battle with the Venom Drake, things were finally starting to look up. Two delvers stood in awe of the dark Aegis shield S had produced. A plus 99 enhancement rank was something neither of them had ever even heard of. They didn't hesitate to drop a massive bag of 400,000 gold on the table. When they pressed him on how he managed to get his hands on such high gear, SA just gave him a smug look and called it a trade secret. He offered to source whatever else they might need. And the gray-haired delver was already salivating over the rare weapons list. Defeating that Venom Drake had been a gold mine, allowing Soma to mine enough dark adamantite to craft 5 of those dark Aegis shields. His plan was simple. Target the wealthy delvers who had just been outbid at the major auctions. They were desperate for a win. By selling to them directly, he cut out the auction house fees and opened up a whole new world of business leads. S pulled up another item on his display, mentioning he'd managed to snag a few other rarities alongside the shields. It was a venomous great bow, a custom piece forged from the jewel of a mutant Venom Drake. The two men looked like they were going to have a heart attack. They wanted it bad, but their bank accounts were already screaming for mercy. Word was getting around about a massive gathering of hunter-type delvers in the forest area of the labyrinth's middle layer. The delivers laughed, asking for first dibs on any other rare drops he might find. S told them to leave it to him. As he walked away through the town, someone called out his name. Shikika came fluttering down, eager to hear how the negotiations went. S showed her the numbers. 2 shields sold for 750,000 gold. At this rate, 2 million was easily within reach. Eve walked up, carrying a massive pack on her back. She congratulated Chika on the successful sales. With 3 million gold saved up, Shikika was already celebrating. Eve, ever the pragmatist, reminded S that his actual target was a staggering 100 million gold. 3 million was barely 3% of the goal. S just smirked. He had a plan for the next move, but for now, they needed to clear out the inventory they already had. Eve wasn't entirely satisfied with the non-answer, but she stayed quiet. He held up the glowing purple bow, confident they'd find a high-paying buyer soon. They needed a massive budget for what was coming next. They made their way to the treetop village in the middle layer where a crowd was already gathering. Sat up shop and started calling out to the crowd, inviting everyone to check out his premium supplies. He showcased the venomous great bow, and the reaction was instant. People were floored by its power. Sat a Heil hunter in the crowd and asked if the bow wouldn't be a perfect fit for someone of his rank. The hunter started sweating and stammering, looking like he was absolutely terrified to even consider the purchase. Soma realized something was wrong. The crowd was backing away, murmuring about having plenty of supplies already. They weren't even looking at the standard bows and arrows. It wasn't about the price. It was like they were afraid of what would happen if they bought anything. The crowd parted as a heavy footstep echoed across the wooden platform. A man shouted out, calling Scrawny Little Run and demanding to know who gave him permission to do business there. It was Haith, an advanced hunter from the Predator class. He leaned in close, laughing about S, not knowing whose turf he was on. HYDH stared him down, his golden eyes narrowed. He didn't recognize S's face at all. S didn't blink. He calmly introduced himself as a crafter and asked if there was anything else the guy needed to know. The idea of a crafter trying to run a business in this area sent Hayoth and his cronies into a fit of hysterical laughter. S watched them completely unmoved. It had been a long time since anyone had given him that kind of reaction. HYTH turned to the crowd, telling them to buy the weapons he personally crafted instead of the garbage S was selling. S finally saw what was happening. HYDH was intimidating the other delvers to ensure he kept a monopoly on the profits. Sheikah was fuming, barely holding back. People who weren't official crafters could still make gear in their specific field, which meant all the subpar weapons around here came from this guy. S's expression went cold as he let out a sharp, huh, that stopped the laughter dead. Eve asked what items Hayoth was even talking about. S didn't hold back, calling everything he saw flimsy trash that was worse than standard shop junk. Hayoth lost it, screaming in S's face about crushing him. S just smiled, telling him that if this was going to be a physical fight, the outcome was already decided. HYTH laid out his terms with a manic grin. If he won, S was permanently banned from the area. If S somehow pulled it off, he'd be allowed to keep running his little shop. S didn't even look impressed. He called HYDH out for being a total coward, betting only on things that didn't actually cost him anything. He demanded Hayoth put some skin in the game. If he was going to lose, he should accept immediate and permanent exile from the region. The crowd watched in silence as the tension reached a breaking point. Soma wasn't just here to trade. He was here to take over. HYDH snapped, accepting the terms with a shout that echoed through the village. He was confident he wasn't going to be the one leaving. He drew his bow, promising S a beating so severe he'd never be able to show his face in the dungeon again. The duel was simple. They'd both craft a bow on the spot and shoot. The first one to land a hit was the winner. HYDH unleashed a volley, aiming to end the fight before it even truly began. He wanted to show everyone the gap in their power. The hunter froze as a strange blue light filled his vision. He couldn't understand what he was looking at. S just casually brushed it off with a my bad as he focused on the object in his hand. He had just finished crafting the Brahmastra, a divine bow with a guaranteed homing capability. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a death sentence for his target. So, aside, looking at his work, he just wasted a bunch of rare materials he bought for a client's request, and now he'd have to source them all over again. The homing arrow streaked through the air in a wide arc, leaving a trail of blue light as it zeroed in on its prey. HYDH was panting on the sidelines, his pride shattered. He couldn't believe he'd been played for a fool in front of everyone. Desperate, he unleashed his ultimate skill, Beast Call. He was done playing by the rules of fair duel. Monstrous shadows descended from the canopy, their eyes glowing with a murderous intent as they answered his call. The peaceful trading hub instantly turned into a disaster zone. The crowd panicked and scattered as the beasts lunged towards S. Total chaos hits the area as monsters swarm the delvers, everyone screaming for their lives while the beasts tear through their ranks. Eve doesn't wait around, dropping in and straight up leveling a giant beast with a single strike. She stands her ground, noticing these things aren't just wild, they're coordinated. South stays close, scanning the mess. Up in the shadows, Predator Hayato is watching the slaughter with a smug grin. This is his handiwork. S figures this whole monster mess is just a big diversion. He's not falling for the bait. He pulls out his crafting cube, eyes already searching for the real threat behind the scenes. A sudden whistle in the air catches him off guard. Something's coming from behind. He snaps a shield into existence, just in time to block a pair of arrows. The real target was him all along. A whole rain of arrows follows, blanketing the area in a deadly volley. S dodges back, while Sheikah points out the shooter is way off in the distance. He realizes he's got to deal with Predator directly to end this. He crafts a bow and lets fly a bunch of glowing energy shots. He's testing his range. The arrows don't just fly straight. They curve through the air like homing missiles. High up on a ledge, Predator just watches the glowing streaks approach. He doesn't look worried at all. He bats the arrows aside like they're nothing. At this distance, they've lost all their punch. He laughs it off, mocking S for being an amateur who doesn't understand damage fall-off. He brags about his own skills that keep his shots deadly, no matter how far he is. He lines up a shot on S while the guy is still pinned down by monsters. It's a perfect setup. He fires off a special arrow with a little something extra attached, a bomb. Predator expects a big finish, but then he notices S's homing arrows are still hovering. He barely has time to wonder what S crafted before reality hits. A massive explosion rips through the cliffside, right where he was standing. Down below, S lowers his bow, watching the smoke clear from the ledge. He smirks, knowing better than to play by the rules. Standard tactics were never his style. The Delvers are ecstatic, crowding around to thank S for saving their skins. He was already back to business, selling supplies to the grateful Delvers, while S tells them to save the thanks and just buy more stuff. Someone brings them back to reality, pointing out that Predator will probably just come back later like nothing happened. One of the Delvers steps up, looking serious. He's got a special favor to ask. He explains that the base they're using wasn't built by the game. It was crafted by the players themselves. It started with 10 volunteers from the elite classes who pulled their resources to build a safe haven. They turned a massive tree into a fortress and ran it fairly for everyone. But then the administrators started vanishing one by one, leaving Predator as the last man standing. He took total control. S gets it now. The guy's been using his admin status to play God and hoard all the loot. There are even rumors that he personally assassinated the other 9. Shikika looks absolutely sickened. S asks what he's supposed to do about it. They stop in front of something massive. A towering, glowing divine tree stands before them, pulsing with energy. The Delver's plan is bold. He wants Soma to use the tree to craft an entirely new base. If they build a new one, Predator loses all his privileges and they can kick him out for good. Shikika is worried, asking if a job this big is even possible for one person. S is pretty confident. He gives them the money sign. It's possible, but a massive job like this is going to cost them. The guy doesn't hesitate, offering up 5 million gold they scraped together from the whole group. S doesn't waste a second, activating his cube and letting the crafting energy flood the area. He gives a sharp grin as the deal is sealed. Negotiation successful. The Delver is left staring in disbelief. It took 10 pros a month to build the old base, and this guy is starting right now. So Masala decides that if the task is too big, he'll just have to speed things up on multitasking. He doesn't look even a little bit stressed about it. The Delver watching him is losing his mind. S is actually running 2 complex crafts at the exact same time. It's an insane level of technical skill. But wait, it's not just 2. More glowing cubes start appearing, and the guy realized S's whole multitasking game is on an entirely different level. S lets the energy fly, sending a swarm of crafting cubes up into the branches of the divine tree. It's time to get to work. He raises his arms as the tree begins to glow with massive waves of magic energy. The scale of his craft is absolutely enormous. A blinding light erupts as S triggers a grand craft, reshaping the ancient tree into a brand new community base. Just like that, the new base is finished. S looked a little tired from the effort, but he pulled off in minutes what should have taken a month. On the ground, Predator Hayato is falling apart as his administrative powers vanish. He can't believe he was stripped of his authority so easily. A cold voice speaks from the shadows, mocking Hayato for losing his power. The mysterious figure reveals they were actually the one who killed the other administrators, not Hayato. Before Hayato can even process the betrayal, a glowing blue spear comes whistling through the air. The spear slams right in the guy's head. He barely has time to scream before it's all over. A shadowy silhouette watches from a branch above, cold and detached. They claim they'll put Hayato's life to good use as they disappear into the forest. Sade's business is absolutely booming lately. The Dark Aegis alone brought in a massive 750,000 gold, and his other high-end bows are selling like crazy too. Even the smaller sales to average hunters are starting to stack up. They're more than happy to throw gold at him for some decent gear. After he accounts for the material costs and the bonus for setting up a new base in the forest, the profit is looking great. His net total is sitting at over 6 million gold. S has currently got 7 million in savings. It's still a far cry from the 93 million he needs to reach his goal, but he's making fast progress. As a group walks through the city, the crafter mentions how the divine Bao basically turned into a mini bidding war. He's glad it fetched a higher price than he anticipated. Eve, always the voice of logic, points out that their raw material costs are hitting 40% of their total sales. She thinks they should try to tighten the belt and bring that down to 30. S argues that since he's dealing in rare, high-quality materials, 40% isn't actually that bad. Plus, gathering everything by hand just isn't realistic if they want to move fast. Their talk is cut short when a digital mail notification pops up in front of them. S and Shikasto are both completely blindsided. It's a formal summon from the Labyrinth of Illusions Self-Governance Committee. Eve looks just as confused. Being called in by the authorities usually isn't a good sign. See, the Labyrinth of Illusions is a massive dungeon that suddenly appeared in the real world. Unlike the original game, there are no actual game masters to handle things like customer support or punishing rule breakers. The labyrinth accepts everyone equally, meaning even the most evil humans can roam around without any consequences. To combat the lawlessness, a group of volunteer seekers established their own peacekeeping organization. That's how the Self-Governance Committee was born. Sitting in the committee's office, Eve wonders if they're actually doing anything. Even known criminals are still roaming free. Guesses their influence is limited to the surface areas. They probably don't have the reach to maintain order in the deeper levels. A man in a blue uniform enters the room, thanking the crafter for showing up on short notice. Admits he's surprised by the summons. He's been under the impression that he's been conducting himself perfectly. That's when another woman enters the room. This is Ishvari, and she's looking for the man who managed to finish every crafting recipe in the original game. She steps forward with an air of absolute authority. She knows exactly who he is, the only player to ever complete every single crafting recipe implemented in the game. She gets right in his face, noting that because he never flaunted his strength, only a handful of people even knew his name. To her, it makes perfect sense that someone with a track record was able to forge the Dark Aegis. She sits back on the couch, admitting she had to do quite a bit of digging to uncover his identity. It turns out Ishvari was the one who won the auction for the Aegis he put up for sale. She doesn't waste time with small talk and tells him she has a demand. She wants him to stop the sale of his counterfeit rare items immediately. Is confused. His items are the genuine article, so he doesn't see any reason why he should have to stop selling them. Ishvari explains her selfish logic. Every time he sells one, it lowers the scarcity and value of her own collection. To her, the entire reason she's even in the labyrinth is to collect rare items. Having them be common ruins the fun. Stands up and shouts in disbelief. He can't believe she's trying to shut him down just to protect her collection's value. The committee official steps in to announce a resolution. Since there's a dispute, Ishvari has requested a trial by combat. The duel will be a public event at the Grand Arena, and the selection of proxies is permitted. This kind of duel is a common way for seekers to resolve trouble when they can't agree on a solution. Shikika is absolutely fuming. Needs 100 million gold to save her, and this ban would ruin everything. Realizes that refusing the duel won't do any good. She'll just find some other way to interfere with his business. But then a thought strikes him. Maybe accepting the duel is actually the better move. If he wins, he gets the committee's official seal of approval and some incredible publicity. Still, he has some concerns. Her arrogant attitude is definitely not what he'd expect from an ordinary seeker. Shiko wonders if her initiate class is something special. Eve explains it just means she's a beginner or a new recruit. That realization only makes S more suspicious. She might be a beginner on paper, but her financial power is insane. She's likely using her wealth to hire elite seekers as proxies while she stays behind the scenes. So is sweating. The real question isn't whether he should accept the challenge, but whether they actually have any hope of winning this thing. Ishvari makes it clear that there's no walking away. If he refuses the duel, she'll just find more direct methods to shut down his business and make his life a living hell. S finally caves. He'll take the deal, but only if she agrees to drop this whole thing for good. If he wins, she gives her word, though she looks entirely too confident about it. Once they're back at their base, the weight of the situation starts to settle in. Shika is terrified, knowing that whatever proxy Ishvari hires is bound to be an absolute monster in a fight. Even Eve has her doubts. She bluntly tells her master that his current combat capabilities aren't even close to being a match for a high opponent. The stats don't lie. As a crafter, S's raw power is about the same as someone half his level. And since he has 0 combat skills, he's technically even weaker than that. But S isn't backing down. He needs his business to save his sister. And he wouldn't have walked into this duel if he didn't already have a winning strategy. He turns to Eve and asks her to act as his proxy for the upcoming fight. He's putting their entire future in her hands. Eve agrees to comply, but she's genuinely worried that S is overestimating what she can actually do in the arena. She's already analyzed Ishvar's guard, and the data is grim. If that man is the proxy, Eve calculates their chance of victory at a measly 30%. S actually laughs, admitting he thought the odds were even worse, more like 10%. Eve is not amused and asks if she can punch him just once for the stress. He reminds her that they've pulled off miracles before. When they took down the Venom Drake, it wasn't because they were stronger, it was because they outplayed it. He points out that the real source of her strength is the equipment he crafts for her. With the right gear, she can punch way above her weight class. S explains that as a veteran of the original game, he has access to top-tier recipes most people have never seen. He can craft end-aim weapons that shouldn't even exist yet. He mentions that technically these are items designed for pet monsters. Eve immediately regrets the details when she pictures herself in a collar, leaving S to quickly apologize for the weird phrasing. Shikika is still skeptical about the whole thing. High gear requires extremely rare materials, and those aren't exactly sitting on store shelves. The sheer complexity of the plan is enough to make the little fairy's head spin. She started to feel like her brain might actually short-circuit. S tells her to relax. He's already thought ahead and knows exactly where to get what they need for his synthesis. He reveals his secret weapon, the remains of a raid boss. He's going to use them to build a custom weapon for Eve called the Grand Gynol Unit. This massive piece of machinery is his trump card. If he can pull this off, it'll be their absolute key to winning the trial. The scavenge is going well, and another rare part is successfully salvaged. Sato holds up a glowing gear. Satisfied with the growing haul, he puts it away while Sheikah Sato celebrates their good luck nearby. They've reached the hidden lab, and S explains that the dungeon self-repair system keeps the loot fresh. A single rope hangs through a hole in the ceiling, their only way back to the surface. Eve arrives carrying a heavy basket filled with mechanical scrap and materials. S thanks her, noting that they finally have plenty of supplies for their next big project. Eve mentions her desire to use the armament generation function typical of high-rank automa. Unfortunately, she admits that those abilities were lost along with her memories. S recalls that as a former raid boss, Eve used to wield incredibly powerful weaponry. In her past life, she was a terrifying force on the battlefield, equipped to handle any threat. He realizes it's a shame she can't use those skills now, but they have to work with what they've got. S stops her to ask if she can remember anything at all about her original identity. She confirms that all data regarding her previous self is currently locked away. Deep within her core, her memories remain frozen and unreachable. S decides it's better if they don't force her to remember her past. He knows those files likely contain her programming as a boss-level enemy. The risk is too high. There's a 90% chance she'd turn back into a monster if she got them back. Eve changes the subject, asking if the weapons he's crafting will be enough to win the upcoming duel. Sheikah panics, realizing this is the moment that determines if she can ever become human again. But she trusts her big brother S's craftsmanship, knowing he never fails. S just smiles and tells her to leave everything to him. The scene shifts to a massive arena packed with spectators eager for a fight. The announcer introduces Ishvari and her champion, the Battleum Gilbert. Opposing them is Sate with the pet monster, Eve acting as his dual proxy. Sheikah is nervous about the crowd, but S notices that no one has figured out Eve's true identity yet. The rules are set, no outside help, and the first side to drop to 0 health or shut down loses. Gilbert glares down at Eve, clearly feeling insulted by having to fight a mere pet. Eve stares back and tells him he should praise her now, so he has a good excuse for when he loses. S notes that their opponent is somewhere between level 5 and 600. He knows the real elite players over level 700 are too busy exploring the deepest layers to bother with duels. Still, as far as healings go, Gilbert is about as strong as they come. The bell rings, and the announcer roars for the duel to begin. Gilbert doesn't waste a second, lunging forward with his massive blade raised high. He brings the sword down with a thunderous roar, intent on ending things in one hit. A massive explosion of light and rubble fills the arena as the attack connects. Ishvari watches from behind her shield, thinking the crafter's pet is already finished. Gilbert is stunned when the dust clears, realizing he didn't hit his target. Eve is standing firm, having blocked the entire blast with her Dark Aegis shield. Ishvar's smirk disappears the moment she sees the shield's glowing purple eye. Eve immediately unleashes her counterattack. Petrification Wave. Blinding purple energy surges toward Gilbert, threatening to end the match right here. Purple lightning crackles around Gilbert as he struggles to push through the energy field. He shouts that he's already taken measures against status debuffs, refusing to let the attacks slow him down. He follows up with a powerful horizontal slash, sending a wave of energy tearing across the ring. Eve prepares her own counter, activating her Swan Lake hover units and deploying her Gemini blades. She rockets forward, her movements becoming a blur as she closes the distance in an instant. The two clash in a spray of sparks, their weapons meeting with a violent metallic screech. A massive shock wave ripples through the air at the point of impact, shaking the entire stadium. Eve touches back down and looks around, realizing that her opponent has vanished from her line of sight. Suddenly, Gilbert appears directly behind her, his eyes glowing with a menacing red light. He slams his sword down onto her guard, the weight of the strike forcing her toward the ground. Eve's systems groan under the pressure, and sparks fly from her head as she struggles to hold her position. The force of the blow sends her sliding back across the stone floor, leaving deep gouges in her wake. Gilbert stands over her, telling her to admit defeat now, before she's destroyed beyond repair. Instead of surrendering, Eve starts to power back up, blue energy crackling along her mechanical joints. Shika Saudo is terrified, but S remains perfectly calm, telling her that everything is going according to plan. Eve politely thanks the Battleum for his concern, though she has no intention of backing down. Saudo smiles, telling everyone that the real show is only just getting started. Eve's frame begins to expand as she activates her overload weapon, the massive gigantic Tyronos. Gilbert stands ready in the arena, asking if the real show is finally about to start. He doesn't wait for an answer, swinging his blades with lethal speed. Eve blocks the strike with her oversized gauntlets, sparks flying as the metal grinds. Gilbert smirks, drawing a massive black and red blade that hums with dark energy. He shouts for her to show him everything she's got and charges forward. They meet in a blur of red and blue light, clashing with enough force to shake the entire arena. A massive shock wave erupts from the center of their impact. Gilbert's eyes widen in shock as his heavy blade is pushed back. He lets out a roar, putting every ounce of strength into his next swing. Eve stays perfectly calm, using her mechanical arms to parry the heavy blows. Gilbert grinds his teeth, boasting that his arm is a masterpiece crafted with his master's full effort. Eve's eye glows a sharp green as she says that falling behind is simply impossible for her. Another heavy clash follows, but this time, Eve is the one pushing forward. Gilbert is starting to sweat, his face twisting as he struggles to hold his ground. Suddenly, his gold armor begins to crack and spark under the pressure. Eve flips backward as Gilbert's defense shatters, revealing a purple crystalline skull on the floor. Her arm transforms into an overload weapon designed for total armament destruction. S watches from the distance as Eve tells Gilbert this is a disappointing end to their duel. She activates the weapon, using the power from the purple skull to intensify the blast. A massive burst of purple light consumes the center of the arena. When the light fades, Gilbert is frozen solid, turned completely to stone. The announcer declares the winner S's proxy, the automa, Eve. Up in the stands, Ishvari is absolutely fuming at the unexpected loss. Down below, Gilbert's stone form remains stuck in his final pose as attendants rush over. Back at their workshop, Shika clings to Eve in celebration of their victory. S looks over a screen filled with craft requests. Glad he accepted the duel. Shikika is beaming, shouting that everyone finally knows how strong S really is. S is just glad to see the massive increase in sales. Eve walks in carrying a tea tray, telling S he'll have to work like a horse from now on. She jokes that since she fought until her arms were sliced off, he should work until 5 or 6 of his are gone. Shikika enjoys her tea, looking up at S with a soft smile. She thanks him and Eve for everything they've done for her. She promises to pay them back once she's finally back to normal. Suddenly, a fresh notification pops up on S's screen. It's not another request, but a completion notice from the legendary auction. S explains that he listed the remaining Dark Aegis and some mass-produced rare gear after the duel. He opens the results to see who won the bids for his items. The list of equipment is extensive, covering everything from armor to enchanted necklaces. It turns out every single item was won by the same person. Initiate Ishtar. S bursts out laughing, realizing Ishari bought everything herself to keep the scarcity value high. Eve and Shikika just stare at him, a bit baffled by how he's taking the news. S figures it's fine. The rich are on another level, and his customer base is definitely growing. The auction results continue to roll in, with everything from obsidian armor to a mountain-crushing iron hammer selling for hundreds of thousands of gold. After paying the auction commissions and material costs, S is left with a massive profit from his winning bids. Even with a big payday, he still has nearly 90 million gold left to reach his target. Meanwhile, in a dark alleyway, a frustrated wizard curses under his breath. Ignis stares at the news of S's recent success, recognizing him as the crafter who humiliated him. He rages about his underlings running away, leaving him unable to even explore the dungeon properly. A hooded figure suddenly appears from the shadows, addressing the wizard by name. The stranger offers to lend a hand, promising enough power to finally stand against S. Ignis is shaken that this stranger knows his name, but he's too desperate to care for long. He demands the power immediately, threatening to kill the man if this is some kind of joke. Without a word, a glowing blue dagger is plunged straight into the wizard's back. Ignis lets out a pained gasp as the mysterious blade sinks deep into his flesh. Terrified, he looks back and asks what the hooded man is actually doing to him. The stranger tells him to accept the gift without hesitation as the blue energy begins to surge through Ignis. S just finished his duel with Ishtar and pocketed 10 million gold. It's a decent haul, but only a fraction of his 1Z million gold goal. Eve asks if he's ready for the next phase of his plan. They've arrived at a row of buildings in a prime area of the town. And Eve head inside with Sheikah trailing along. He's been sitting on this idea for a while and decided it's finally time to pull the trigger. They're met by a man in a suit who's been expecting them. The agent asks if they're here for the rental shop preview. S is not making any promises until they've had a look around. The place is massive with polished wooden floors and a long service counter. The agent explains that most shops in a labyrinth are automated system functions, but explorers can also rent out their own buildings to run private shops. Eve is floored when she hears the price tag, millions of gold per month, just for the rent. SA sees the value, though specifically the way it solves the manpower issue. With a rental shop, he can keep selling gear in parallel while he's out exploring or grinding levels. Shikika's eyes go wide as she notices something feels off. Looking out at the street, Soma points out the obvious. This is a prime location with tons of traffic. He asks why a spot like this would be vacant, and the agent visibly flinches. The guy starts panicking and listing off the perks. Residential space, a warehouse, even an elevator. Eventually, he cracks. Apparently, there are rumors floating around that the place is haunted. Shikika immediately loses it, but the agent insists it's just a nuisance and a stupid rumor. She's heard it all. A female ghost wandering at night, things moving on their own, and even disappearing customers. S being S is actually hyped. He says he'd love to see a real ghost. He speculates it's just a stray monster or a prank from another explorer. While Shika is busy hyperventilating, he practically begs for it to be real, much to Shikika's horror. To settle things, S gets to work crafting some basic anti-ghost gear like holy water and talismans. But then a glowing blue silhouette starts to manifest right behind the counter. It's the spirit of a woman, her face twisted in a silent, terrifying scream. Shikika spots it and points it out, screaming that it's actually there. S looks right at the spot, but as far as he can see, there's absolutely nothing. Shika keeps pointing and panicking while S tells her to take a breath and calm down. He explains that ghost-type monsters are famous for being able to turn invisible. Even Eve's passive scout skills aren't picking up a thing. Soma wonders if what Shikika is seeing is the real cause of the ghost commotion. Shika is frozen in place, trembling from head to toe. She says it's just standing there near the counter, completely motionless. S decides it's time for a proper search. If there's a monster here, it's going to be a problem for business. He hands out the countermeasures, explaining that they'll work even if the targets stay invisible. He prepares a vial of glowing holy water. He shoves a bottle toward the agent, telling him to earn his keep and help maintain order. The agent is way too scared to help, stammering that they've already tried everything. S approaches the counter with a warning talisman, ready to flush the spirit out. He has Shika fly the talisman right up to where she sees the figure. She braces herself and shoves the charm forward with both hands, but there's no reaction at all. No spark, no banishment, no reaction. It really isn't a monster. Shikika is still shaking, hoping it's just a prank left by some wizard. The glowing silhouette of the spirit remains perfectly still behind the counter, staring off into space. Down on the floor, a dark, swirling puddle of energy begins to manifest. Shikika suspects that something is definitely wrong. Shikika holds out the talisman, but her eyes go wide as a massive shadowy limb erupts from the floor. Before she can even react, she's swallowed up by a swirling black void, screaming in terror. A sharp dark point slowly emerges from the black puddle, rising up from the floorboards. Shikika reaches out, her face full of shock as the warding talisman fails to show any reaction whatsoever. She's sweating and panicking if this isn't a ghost-type monster. She has no idea what they're actually facing. The entity finally shows its true face, a horrifying figure with flowing purple hair and a cracked skeletal white mask. S looks up at the building. There's no doubt that something is hiding inside. He leans against the desk, taking the threat seriously since Shika isn't the type to lie about these things. S pulls out a stack of charms. To find the true form of the entity, they have to narrow down the possibilities one by one. He thinks back to his childhood when he used to wish ghosts were real, just so those who died could come back to see him. He shakes off the memory and tells Shikika it's time to move. But as he heads for the stairs, he notices one of the charms lying on the floor. A pale, cracked face stares out from the darkness. It's a dark spirit named Lumpa, a far more dangerous creature than any ghost. Shikika realizes why their countermeasures didn't work. It's an entirely different species from the spirits they prepared for. She knows light can drive it away, but she's already trapped within its shadow. Terrified, she cries out for S to save her. In the dark, her mind drifts back to the day S first came to live with her family. As a little girl, she didn't understand why a stranger was moving into her home. She acted like a good girl, but she felt like he was taking her family and her home away from her. One night, She wandered off and got lost in a dark alleyway. Crying alone in the cold, she genuinely thought she was going to die right there. Then a light cut through the shadows. It was smiling as he finally found her. She never forgot that day or the way he looked at her. From that moment on, he became more than just family to her. Back in the present, a piercing flash erupts, tearing through the dark spirit's form. The monster shrieks as the light burns its body. Freed from its grasp, Sheikah flies straight toward the one person she trusts. S holds up a sun's mirror, flooding the entire room with blinding radiance. Sheikah dives into the familiar warmth of his scarf. Smiles, relieved that his partner is safe, but the monster isn't finished. It lunges from the remaining shadows. A sudden flash of energy cuts through the air. S stands ready with a glowing blade, telling the thing it picked the wrong victim. With one final strike, the dark spirit shatters into particles and vanishes. The man in the suit is stunned. S actually figured out its true identity. S explains how he deduced it wasn't a ghost, but a dark spirit hiding in plain sight. He used the mirror of the sun to flush it out of the shadows. Sheikah wonders why the creature was targeting her specifically. She remembers seeing a faint ghost-like figure watching them from a distance earlier. When she went to investigate, the dark spirit attacked her. She realizes there were actually two different spirits in the room. Unseen by the others, a pale lady in a white dress stands silently near the group. The ghost whispers a soft thank you before finally fading away into the light. Sheikah remembers hearing rumors about an adventurer who disappeared after seeing a ghost. That ghost must have been the victim, leading them there so they could finally stop the monster that killed them. Elsewhere, shadows stretch across the floor of a cold, empty hall. A cloaked figure slams their fist down, furious that their dark spirit was defeated. A mocking laugh echoes from the high balcony of the cathedral. Diablo looks down at his subordinates, calling the entire plan way too roundabout. He thinks using a dark spirit to target a crafter indirectly was a complete waste of time. He calls them idiots, pointing out that a direct magical blast would have been much faster and far more effective. As he walks through the empty hall, he notes that while targeting those close to S is the best way to make him suffer, the plan only works if they actually succeed. Diablo's expression is cold. To him, the only truly disappointing thing was their failure to finish the job. His subordinates cower in the shadows, shocked that their master decided to pay them a visit without warning. He addresses Wizard Ignis and Predator Hayato, his voice dripping with icy authority. He reminds them that the power he granted them wasn't meant to be wasted on losing streaks. Ignis stammers out an apology, desperately begging for one more chance to prove his worth. Predator isn't interested in excuses. He tells the wizard to sit back and watch how a real professional handles things. Spreading his massive wings, Predator Hayato vows that he'll be the one to personally tear that crafter apart. About 2 weeks have passed since the whole ghost incident. The workshop is officially open and is doing great. Turns out that public duel was the perfect advertisement. S has been busy crafting nonstop to keep the shelves stocked and the gold flowing in. He dropped 10 million gold just to renovate the place and buy up materials, but he views it as a necessary investment. After all, you have to spend money if you want to make a lot more of it later. The shop is a massive hit, pulling in about 2 million gold a day with a solid profit margin. Things are going so well that S is getting a little overwhelmed by the pace. Now that the business is stable, he figures it's time to start taking on special crafting requests again. Sheikah immediately jumps on the chance and brings up a request from the Automata Appreciation Society. They want custom gear for an automaton, though S notes the reward isn't exactly impressive. Sheikah gets all awkward and admits she has some personal reasons for wanting the specific job. Turns out she used to explore with the girl running the society, but they haven't talked in a while. She gives him the ultimate puppy dog eyes, asking if the job is really no good. S can't say no to that, so he agrees to take the request. They head out to meet the client at a cafe, though S is a bit worried about what kind of weirdos are in the society. The client turns out to be a cleric named Violet, who arrives with a small entourage. Sheikah recognizes her immediately and calls her by her real name, Summit. Violet is completely stunned to see her old friend looking like a tiny spirit instead of a person. S tries to steer the conversation back to business while everyone's getting emotional. Violet mentions she's the president of the society and how much she loved seeing S's duel the other day. Then she and her crew start obsessing over Eve's mechanical joints like total fanatics, completely ignoring the shop owner. She goes on and on about wanting the best outfits for her dolls, leaving S just standing there awkwardly. Suddenly, the peaceful vibe of the town is cut short. Someone notices something coming from the sky and looks up just a second too late. A massive bird monster swoops down and snatches him right out of his seat. It happens so fast the others can only watch as he's hauled high up into the air. The creature starts laughing and S sees a familiar face. It's the predator looking way different than before. S recognizes the voice immediately. It's the guy he already beat once. The monster flexes its wings, fueled by a pure desire for revenge. He's completely cast aside his humanity just for a chance to kill the man who humiliated him. Predator is laughing his head off. He's convinced that no matter how much HP S has, fall damage from this height is going to be total overkill. He finally lets go, waving a casual goodbye as the crafter starts his long drop toward the ground. S is plummeting, but he's already busy with something. Predator is actually annoyed that he's not just falling like a normal person. Midair, S starts pulling out materials. He's got blank magic paper and a Rao pelt ready to be used. He's actually got a smirk on his face. He's coming up with a plan to drag the Birdman down with him. Boom! In the middle of a free fall, he finishes crafting a lightning spell scroll. The scroll ignites, and a massive burst of electricity fills the sky. Predator takes a direct hit from the lightning, his beak hanging open in shock as the sparks fly. Both of them are sent tumbling toward the city, trailing black smoke like falling meteors. Predator manages to right himself, yelling at S not to get cocky after just one lucky hit. S is still dropping head first, but he's remarkably chill about the whole situation. He's ready to burn through every material in his inventory to cushion the landing if he has to. He braces for impact, but the ground never comes. Someone catches him midair. It's Oliver. The knight is totally stressed, demanding an explanation for why S is falling out of the clouds. S just laughs it off. He tells Oliver they can catch up once they're back on solid ground. As they head down, S gets a notification for an incoming call. It's for him. A holographic screen pops up showing a familiar face on the other end. The man on the screen says it's been a while, but S clearly isn't surprised. High up in a tower, Alter is watching the whole scene unfold from a massive window. He comments on what a flashy show S just put on. He says the surface is in a huge uproar because of it, and he wants a full explanation. This is Alter, the supreme commander of the Guardians, the elite unit running things in the labyrinth. He's not in the mood for small talk and wants S to explain himself right now. Meanwhile, rumors are spreading like wildfire through the streets about a human who turned into a monster. Everyone's saying that a philosopher's stone can cure it, and apparently S is the one who leaked that info. People are starting to panic about what to do. Violet is just relieved to see a call from S. She's glad he's actually safe after that drop. Eve is with her and warns that they shouldn't celebrate yet. S has been called in by the committee to explain everything. The crowd in the street is getting rowdy, and things are looking like they're about to get complicated. Back at headquarters, Alter apologizes for dragging S in so suddenly. He gets straight to the point, saying there's something he absolutely needs to ask. S doesn't seem stressed at all. He just casually tells Alter that the commander's cloak doesn't suit him at all. Alter actually bursts out laughing at the comment. He admits he only took the job because he was the strongest volunteer available. S notes he hasn't changed a bit since their old days. The mood shifts as Alter asks about the Birdman monster that attacked him. He's pretty sure S knows its true identity. He wants to know if the rumors about people turning into monsters are actually the truth. S is surprised by how fast the word is traveling around town. Alter reveals that rumors of monsterification have been around for a while, but the committee always treated them like urban legends. He also points out that S is usually the source of half the rumors in town anyway, while the rest is just hearsay. S admits he hasn't really been trying to hide the fact that he was looking for clues. Alter warns that if the public finds out humans can turn into monsters, it'll cause a massive panic. Just then, Violet and the team burst into the room. She yells that they've got a massive problem. S looks back, slightly confused by the sudden entrance. Violet explains that the material shops in town are completely losing it. S's market manipulation scheme is officially in full swing. People are swarming the shops, yelling for anything that might help them. They're ready to blow their life savings on high-tier materials they don't even know how to use. The panic is real. Everyone's scrambling to buy whatever stock is left, even if they can only afford a tiny fraction of it. Violet is totally stressed out by the chaos, but S is just standing there taking it all in. He wonders if these people,